Hey guys, welcome to another video on the channel. Today I will share with you an impressive story of overcoming, love, and spiritual revelations. A woman who, after losing the great love of her life, went through a near-death experience that completely changed her view of life, death, and even Jesus. The revelations she had are shocking and will make you rethink everything you've ever heard about religion. So, before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell so you don't miss any videos, and leave a like to help us continue bringing these incredible stories. Hello, my name is Amara Whitley. I'm 66 years old and live in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm a widow, mother of 3 wonderful children, and grandmother of 5 adorable grandchildren. I worked as a literature teacher for over 30 years before retiring. My life has always been quite ordinary, you know? I was that person you would meet shopping at the local grocery store or walking through the park with my dogs. I was never very religious, although I was raised in a Christian family. I went to church from time to time, but it didn't define who I was. My husband, Thaddeus, and I have known each other since we were children. We grew up together, fell in love, and built a wonderful life side by side. He was my best friend, my confidant, my safe haven. We had the kind of relationship that people admired, you know? It wasn't perfect, of course not, but it was solid, based on love, respect, and a lot of patience. Sadly, just over a year ago, Thaddeus passed away after a battle with a rare cancer. It was a devastating blow for me. We spent 41 years married, and suddenly, he wasn't there anymore. The pain of loss was overwhelming. I felt lost, aimless, as if a part of me had been ripped away. In the months following Thaddeus's death, I sank into a deep depression. I couldn't eat properly, sleeping was a challenge, and I just didn't feel like doing anything. My children tried to help me, but I pushed them away. I was angry at the world, angry at God, if he existed. How could he have taken Thaddeus from me? I never imagined that something extraordinary could happen to me. I mean, I'm just an ordinary lady from a small town. But life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it? What I'm about to tell you has completely changed my perspective on life, death, and everything in between. It all started on an ordinary day, about a month after Thaddeus's death. I had finally gathered the strength to leave the house and decided to go to the park where we used to walk together. It was there that I had my first near-death experience, and it was just the beginning of a journey that would transform my life forever. It was an autumn morning. The air was cold, and the sky was cloudy. I felt particularly melancholy that day. The memories of Thaddeus weighed on my heart like lead. I decided to go to our favorite park, the one where we used to spend hours talking, laughing, and simply enjoying each other's company. I walked slowly along the familiar paths, each step bringing back a different memory. The bench where we shared our first kiss, the tree we picnicked under on the weekends, the pond where we fed the ducks. Everything felt so empty without him. I sat on our favorite lakeside bench, looking at the water that reflected the gray sky. The tears began to fall silently. I felt so alone, so lost without Thaddeus. That's when it happened. Suddenly, I felt a presence. I looked up, and across the lake I saw a familiar figure. My heart almost stopped. It was Thaddeus. He was there, standing in the distance, looking at me with that gentle smile I knew so well. It couldn't be real, I knew that, but my heart refused to believe my eyes. Without thinking, I got up and started running towards him. My feet didn't seem to touch the ground as I ran, desperate to catch up to him. But the closer I got, the more he seemed to move away. It was as if he was disappearing into thin air, like mist dissipating in the wind. "Thaddeus!" I shouted, my voice filled with despair and hope. But he continued to walk away, his gentle smile never leaving his face. Suddenly I felt a sharp pain in my chest. It was as if someone had gripped my heart with an iron fist. My vision began to darken around the edges, and I felt my legs weaken. I fell to the ground, the grass cold against my face. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was Thaddeus's face, now so close, his eyes full of love and understanding. I didn't know it at the time, but I was having a heart attack. My body, weakened by depression and neglect, had finally given out. As I lay there, unconscious, something extraordinary began to happen. Something that would challenge everything I believed I knew about life and death. The next thing I remember is being floating. There was no more pain, no more weight. It was as if I had left my body behind and was now pure consciousness. All around me was darkness, but not frightening darkness. It was a welcoming darkness, like a soft hug. Then I saw a light. At first it was just a tiny dot in the distance, but it got bigger and brighter. It was as if I was being pulled towards her, not by an external force, but by a desire deep within me. As I got closer to the light, I realized it wasn't just light. It was a tunnel, a corridor of pure, radiant energy. The tunnel walls seemed alive, pulsing with colors I had never seen before. Blues deeper than the ocean, greens more vibrant than any forest, purples that seemed to sing. It was as if each color had its own music, its own vibration. As I traveled through this tunnel, I began to feel a deep peace enveloping me. All the fears, all the worries I carried seemed to melt away. The pain of losing Thaddeus, which had been so sharp and constant, began to transform into something different. It was no longer a piercing pain, but a sweet longing, full of love and gratitude for the years we shared. The movement through the tunnel was smooth, as if I were being carried by a gentle current. There was no rush, there was no fear. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. As I went further, I started to hear something. At first, it was just a distant murmur, but it became clearer. It was music, the most beautiful music I had ever heard. It was like nothing I knew on earth. It was as if every note was made of pure love, every chord vibrating with compassion and joy. And then, I felt something even more extraordinary. Love. A love so deep, so complete, so unconditional that it almost made me cry. It was like I was being embraced by all the love in the universe. At that moment, I understood that I was never truly alone, that love was always there, waiting for me to recognize it. As I approached the end of the tunnel, the light grew even brighter, but it wasn't a blinding or painful light. It was a light that welcomed, that healed. And there, at the end of the tunnel, I saw a figure, a radiant figure, shining with a light so pure I could barely look directly at it. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was in the presence of something divine, something bigger than I could have ever imagined. And it was then that I heard a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "Welcome, Amara," said the voice. "Are you ready to see?" And with those words, the world around me exploded with light and love, and I was taken on a journey that would change my understanding of everything forever. When the light around me stabilized, I found myself before a throne. It was not a throne like the ones we see in palaces or churches. It was made of pure light, pulsing with energy and life. And sitting on that throne was, well, how can I describe it? It wasn't a person, not in the sense we normally understand it. It was more like a presence, a consciousness so vast and powerful that it seemed to fill all the space around me. The light emanating from this presence was so intense that I could barely look directly at it. But interestingly, it didn't hurt my eyes. It was as if my very essence was adjusting to be able to withstand the magnitude of what I was witnessing. Then, the presence spoke, not with words exactly, but with thoughts that formed directly in my mind. And in that moment, I knew, with a certainty that went beyond any doubt, that I was in the presence of God. "Amara," the voice resonated in my being, "you have many questions." And I really did. All the anger, all the pain, all the confusion I had felt since Thaddeus's death came flooding back. Without me needing to speak, all my questions were exposed before this divine presence. "Why did you take Thaddeus from me?" My soul screamed silently. Why so much pain? Why so much suffering? And then, something extraordinary happened. In an instant, I saw my entire life unfold before me. Every moment, every decision, every joy and every sadness. I saw my childhood, my marriage to Thaddeus, the birth of our children, I saw the moments of laughter and the moments of tears, and in every scene, I could feel God's love permeating everything. My daughter, the divine voice spoke with infinite compassion. Thaddeus was not taken from you. He fulfilled his mission on earth. Each soul has its own path, its own time. What you see as the end is just a transition. As these words resonated with me, I began to understand. Life was not a series of random events, but an intricate and beautiful plan. Every experience, every relationship had a purpose. But the pain, I began, but before I could finish the thought, I was enveloped by a wave of love so intense that it almost knocked me off balance. The pain you feel is a measure of the love you shared, God explained. It's a testament to the beauty of what you and Thaddeus have built together. But remember, Amara, love never dies. It only changes form. At that moment, I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The pain didn't disappear completely, but it transformed. From an open wound, it became a precious memory, a testament to the love Thaddeus and I shared. And then, God showed me something else. I saw the impact my life had had on others. I saw how my love for Thaddeus had inspired our children, how my kindness had touched my students, how even my moments of weakness had taught valuable lessons to those around me. You still have a lot to do, Amara, God told me. Your journey on earth is not complete. I wanted to stay. Oh, how I wanted to stay in that presence of infinite love and peace. But I understood. There was a greater purpose for me, a mission that was not yet completed. As I prepared to return, I felt a last wave of divine love wash over me. Remember, Amara, the voice said, you are never alone. I am always with you, in every moment, in every breath. And with those words, I felt myself being gently pulled back, taking with me a deep understanding and peace that I had never known before. While I was still immersed in this divine experience, something incredible happened. Suddenly, I felt a familiar presence next to me. I turned around and there he was. Thaddeus. My dear Thaddeus, exactly as I remembered him in his best days, before his illness. He smiled at me, that smile that always lit up my world, and held out his hand. Without hesitation, I took her, and the moment we touched, I was overwhelmed by a wave of love so pure and intense that it almost made me faint. Amara, my love, he said, his voice exactly as I remembered. It's good to see you. I wanted to hug him, kiss him, never let him go. But something told me that this was not a physical meeting like the ones we had on Earth. It was something deeper, more meaningful. Oh, Thaddeus, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. I've missed you so much. It's been so hard without you. He squeezed my hand gently, his eyes full of understanding and love. I know, my love. I know. But I never really left you. I was by your side the whole time. As he spoke, I realized it was true. All those times I had felt an inexplicable comfort. All the times I thought I heard his voice or smelled him. It was him, always by my side. But why did you have to go? I asked, the pain of loss still fresh in my heart. Thaddeus smiled softly. My dear Amara, each of us has our own path, our own time. My journey on earth was complete, but yours is not yet. You still have a lot to do, a lot of love to give. He then took me on a tour. The scenery around us changed, and suddenly we were in a garden of indescribable beauty. The flowers were colors I had never seen before. The grass seemed to emit its own soft light, and the air was filled with heavenly music. This is my home now, Thaddeus explained, and one day it will be our home together. But not yet, my love, not yet. We walked through the garden, talking as we did on our walks in the park. Thaddeus told me about his new existence, about the peace and love he constantly experienced. He told me about how he could see our children and grandchildren, how he watched them and loved them in a way that transcended earthly understanding. Amara, he said, stopping and holding both my hands, you need to come back now. Our children need you. The world still needs your love, your compassion. I knew he was right, but the thought of leaving him again broke my heart. How can I move on without you? I asked, tears in my eyes. Thaddeus touched my face gently. You are never without me, Amara. I am always with you, in every moment. And one day when the time is right, we will be together again. Forever. He hugged me then, and in that hug I felt all our love, all our memories, all our history together. It was a hug that transcended time and space, a hug that I would take with me back to Earth. Go with love, my Amara, Thaddeus said softly. Live, love, and always remember that love never dies. With those words, I felt myself being gently pulled back. The last thing I saw was Thaddeus's smile, full of love and promises of a future reunion. As I prepared to leave that heavenly realm, another figure approached. It was a presence that radiated an intense light, but at the same time welcoming. When I looked closer, I recognized who it was: Jesus. But it was not the Jesus I had seen in paintings or imagined based on descriptions in Scripture. It was something much more real. Jesus smiled at me, a smile full of compassion and understanding. Amara, he said, his voice resonating with gentle authority. You have many questions about me and my teachings, don't you? I nodded, unable to speak in his presence. So many doubts that I had carried throughout my life, so many uncertainties about faith and religion, they all seemed to come to the surface at that moment. My daughter, Jesus began, much of what you learned about me on earth has been distorted over the centuries. I did not come to create a religion. I did not come to divide people or to judge. I came to teach about love, about the connection with the divine that exists within each one. As he spoke, I felt as if veils were being removed from my eyes. I began to see beyond human interpretations, beyond dogmas and rituals. The true way, Jesus continued, is the way of unconditional love, of compassion, of inner peace. It's not about stone temples or rigid rules. It's about transforming your heart, about elevating your consciousness. He then explained to me about the true nature of spirituality, about how every soul is on a journey of growth and evolution. He talked about how what we call heaven is not a distant place, but a state of consciousness that we can achieve through love and understanding. What you call the Holy Grail, Jesus said with a gentle smile, is not an object, Amara. It is a knowledge, a deep understanding about the nature of reality, about how we can transcend our limitations and achieve a state of union with the divine. As he spoke, I felt as if every word was being engraved not just in my mind, but in my very soul. It was a knowledge that went beyond intellectual understanding. It was a truth that I felt in every fiber of my being. Remember, Amara, Jesus said, placing his hand on my shoulder, true spirituality is not in the words you says or in the rituals you practice. It's in the love you share, the compassion you show, the peace you cultivate within yourself and spread around you. Before I could respond, Jesus hugged me. In that hug, I felt all the love in the universe, all the compassion and all the forgiveness. It was as if every wound in my soul was being healed, every doubt dissolved. Go in peace, Amara, Jesus said as he walked away. And remember, I am always with you, not as a distant figure in the sky, but as a living presence in your heart. With those words, I felt myself being gently taken back. I carried with me not only the memories of that encounter, but a profound understanding that would forever change the way I viewed spirituality and my place in the universe. As I felt myself being pulled back into my body, I had a strange sensation. It was as if I were going through layers and layers of existence, each one denser than the last. The bright, welcoming light of the spiritual realm grew more distant, and I began to feel the familiar weight of my physical body. Suddenly I opened my eyes. I was lying on the grass in the park, surrounded by a small group of people. A man was kneeling next to me, his hands pressed against my chest. I recognized the uniform. It was a park ranger. "She's back," I heard someone scream. The park ranger smiled at me, relief evident on his face. "Welcome back, ma'am," he said gently. "You gave us quite a scare." I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. A woman approached with a bottle of water, helping me drink some. Little by little, I began to understand what had happened. I had suffered a heart attack in the park. The guard, who happened to be trained in first aid, had performed CPR until the ambulance arrived. As I was placed on the stretcher and taken to the ambulance, my mind was spinning. Everything I had experienced, the tunnel of light, the encounter with God, the conversation with Thaddeus, the revelations of Jesus, it all seemed so vivid, so real. But here I was, back in the physical world, as if nothing had happened. At the hospital, doctors examined me thoroughly. I was surprised to discover that despite the severity of the heart attack, there was no significant damage to my heart. Doctors called it a miracle. As I lay in the hospital bed, trying to process everything that had happened, my children arrived. Their expressions were a mix of worry and relief. My oldest daughter, Sarah, took my hand. "Mom," she said, tears in her eyes, "we thought we lost you." I looked at her, at all of them, and I felt a wave of love wash over me. It wasn't just the love I'd always felt for them, but something deeper, more universal. It was as if I could see, for the first time, the divine spark in each of them. "I'm here," he said softly, "and there's so much I need to tell you." In the days that followed, as I recovered in the hospital, I tried to find the words to describe my experience. How do you explain the unexplainable? How do you describe colors that don't exist on Earth, or a love so vast it seems to swallow the entire universe? But as I spoke, I saw something change in my children's eyes. I don't know if they believed everything I said, but they could see that something profound had changed in me. The bitterness that had consumed me since Thaddeus's death was gone, replaced by a peace I had never known before. When I was finally released from the hospital, I came home with a new perspective. The world looked different now. Every color seemed more vibrant, every sound clearer. And in every face I saw, in every person I met, I could see a reflection of that divine light I had experienced. I knew my journey was far from over. In fact, I felt like I was just getting started. I had a lot to learn, a lot to understand. But now I knew, with a certainty that went beyond all doubt, that we are never truly alone, that the love that connects us is stronger than death, more lasting than time. And with this knowledge, I was ready to face whatever life brought next. In the weeks and months following my near-death experience, I realized that something fundamental had changed within me. It wasn't just the way I saw the world, but the way I saw myself and how I related to everything around me. The first thing I noticed was a deep sense of peace. That constant anxiety I used to feel, that feeling that something was missing, was gone. In its place was a calm that seemed to come from my own core. I began waking up each morning with a sense of purpose and gratitude. The little things I once took for granted, the birdsong, the smell of fresh coffee, the smile of a stranger on the street, now felt like daily miracles. My relationship with my children has also changed. The emotional distance that had settled between us after Thaddeus's death began to dissipate. I found myself more open, more present in each interaction. I began to see each of them not just as my children, but as unique souls on their own journeys. One afternoon, as we were having tea on the porch, my daughter Sarah asked me, "Mom, what exactly has changed? You look different." I smiled, thinking about how to explain. "It's as if I've woken up from a long, confusing dream," he said finally. "Now I see that every moment is precious, that every person we meet has something to teach us." My relationship with spirituality has also completely transformed. I no longer cared about specific dogmas or rituals. Instead, I found a direct connection to the divine in simple moments of stillness, in the beauty of nature, in the act of helping someone in need. I started meditating regularly, something I had never done before. In these quiet moments, I sometimes felt that same loving presence that I had experienced during my NDE. It was as if a door had been opened, allowing me to access a part of myself that had always been there, but that I had never realized before. My health has also improved significantly. The doctors were surprised by my quick recovery after the heart attack. I started taking better care of my body, seeing it not just as a physical vehicle, but as a temple for my soul. Surprisingly, I discovered that I had developed a sensitivity that I didn't have before. Sometimes, I could feel others' emotions in an almost tangible way. This has led me to be more compassionate, more understanding of the struggles and challenges of those around me. One day, while walking through the same park where I had my NDE, I came across a young mother crying on a bench. Without hesitation, I sat down next to her and asked if she was okay. She opened up about her difficulties, about how she felt overwhelmed and alone. As I listened to her, I felt a wave of love and compassion wash over me. I shared with her some of the truths I had learned during my experience, about how we are never truly alone, about how love is the most powerful force in the universe. When we finished talking, she hugged me, thanking me for showing up like an angel when she needed me most. This encounter made me realize that perhaps this was a part of the purpose I was shown during my experience, to be there for others, to share the love and understanding I had received. I began to see life as an intricate tapestry, where every encounter, every experience, had a greater purpose. The coincidences no longer seemed random, but rather meaningful synchronicities. I felt guided, like I was dancing in harmony with a cosmic rhythm that I could finally hear. My relationship with death has also changed drastically. The fear I felt before was completely gone. Now I understood that death was not an end, but a transition. That didn't mean I didn't miss Thaddeus. I did, deeply. But now that longing was mixed with a serene joy, a knowledge that our love continued beyond physical barriers. One night, while looking at the stars in my backyard, I felt an overwhelming sense of connection to the universe. It was as if I could feel the vastness of the cosmos within me. In that moment, I viscerally understood what Jesus had told me, that heaven was not a distant place but a state of consciousness that we could achieve here and now. This realization led me to look for ways to share what I had learned, not in a preachy or dogmatic way, but through small acts of kindness, through deep conversations, through being truly present for others. I began volunteering at a local hospital, sitting with dying patients, offering comfort and a compassionate ear. One day, while I was with an elderly patient who was dying of cancer, he shook my hand and said, "You're not afraid, are you?" I smiled and replied, "No, I'm not. And you don't need to be afraid either. It's just the next chapter of our journey." I saw the fear in his eyes replaced by a deep peace. He passed away that night, and I felt it had been a privilege to be with him at that time of transition. As the months went by, I noticed that people started looking for me to talk, to ask for advice. Not because I had all the answers, far from it, but because they felt a peace in my presence. I had become a kind of beacon, reflecting some of that divine light I had experienced. But not everything was easy. There were times when I felt overwhelmed by the intensity of the emotions I could now feel so clearly. There were days when the longing for Thaddeus was almost unbearable, and there were times when I questioned whether I had actually experienced it all, or whether it was just an elaborate trick of my mind. In those moments, I was reminded of Jesus' words. True spirituality is in the love you share, in the compassion you show, in the peace you cultivate within yourself and spread around you. And I held on to that truth, using it as an anchor in moments of doubt. The transformation I experienced was not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. Each day brought new discoveries, new opportunities to grow and learn. I had fundamentally changed, yes, but I was also constantly evolving. And so day after day I continued my journey, no longer fearing the future or regretting the past, but living fully in the present, embracing each moment as a precious gift, an opportunity to experience and share the love that is the true essence of our existence. About 6 months after my first near-death experience, I had an unexpected encounter with mortality once again. I was driving to visit my sister in a neighboring town when a truck lost control and collided with my car. The impact was violent. I remember the deafening sound of metal twisting, the world spinning around me. For a moment I felt a sharp pain and then nothing. Suddenly I was outside my body looking down at the accident scene from above. I saw the paramedics arriving, saw them working frantically to get me out of the crushed car. But unlike the first time, I didn't feel scared. There was a feeling of calm, of acceptance. Then, once again, I felt that loving presence enveloping me. It was as if the universe itself was embracing me. And I heard that voice, the same voice I had heard before. The voice I knew was God. "Amara," the voice said, "you have a choice to make." I immediately understood what this meant. I could choose to stay, to return to that realm of light and love that I had experienced before, or I could choose to return to my body, to my life on earth. For a moment, I was tempted to stay. The peace and love I felt were indescribable. I saw Thaddeus waiting for me, his smile so welcoming and familiar. Part of me wanted to run into his arms, stay with him forever in that place of pure happiness. But then I saw my children. I saw my grandchildren. I saw all the people I had helped in the last few months, all the lives I had touched. And I understood that my journey on earth was not yet complete. "I choose to return," he said, feeling a mixture of determination and gratitude. The divine presence enveloped me in an embrace of pure love. "You have understood the lesson well, my daughter," the voice said. "Life is a precious gift, an opportunity to grow, to love, to make a difference. Use it well." Before returning, I had one last moment with Thaddeus. He hugged me, and in that hug I felt all our love, all our memories. "I'm proud of you, my love," he said. "Keep living, keep loving. I will always be with you." And then, in the blink of an eye, I was back in my body. I opened my eyes to see the worried face of a paramedic. "Welcome back," he said, smiling in relief. In the days that followed, doctors were perplexed by my recovery. Despite the severity of the accident, I had not suffered serious injuries. They called it a miracle, but I knew it was more than that. It was a reminder, a reaffirmation of my life's purpose. This second experience solidified everything I had learned in the first. It reinforced my understanding that life is precious, that every moment is an opportunity to make a difference. When I was released from the hospital, I returned home with a new resolve. I decided I would live each day as if it were my last, not with fear or anxiety, but with gratitude and purpose. Every interaction, every meeting, became an opportunity to share love, to make a difference in someone's life. I started talking more openly about my experiences, not to convince anyone or to brag, but to offer hope and comfort. I discovered that many people were afraid of death, and I was able to share with them the peace I had found. One day, my oldest grandson, Tommy, asked me, "Grandma, aren't you afraid of dying?" I smiled at him and replied, "No, honey. Death is just a transition, like falling asleep and waking up in a wonderful new place. But right now I'm happy to be here, living each day with you." This second near-death experience taught me that every return to life is a new beginning, a new opportunity, and I was determined to make the most of this opportunity, living with love, compassion, and gratitude each day. Now, looking back at everything I lived and learned through these extraordinary experiences, I feel a deep gratitude. Gratitude for life, for every moment I have here on earth, here. Gratitude for the people who are part of my journey, for the challenges that make me grow, for the joys that make life so sweet. My near-death experiences have fundamentally changed how I see the world and my place in it. I learned that we are much more than our physical bodies, that our essence, our soul if you prefer, is eternal. I learned that love is the most powerful force in the universe, capable of transcending even the barriers of death. I understood that life is not a series of random events, but a carefully orchestrated journey of growth and learning. Every challenge, Every joy, every encounter has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is by chance. I also learned that spirituality is not something distant or abstract. It's not about following strict rules or adhering to specific dogmas. It's about living with love, cultivating compassion, seeking connection with the divine in every moment of our everyday lives. Death, which I once feared so much, is now seen as an old friend. I don't seek it. I love life too much for that. But I don't fear it either. I know that when my time comes, it will just be the beginning of a new chapter, a new adventure. But perhaps the most important lesson I've learned is that we don't have to wait until we die to experience heaven. We can create little moments of heaven right here on earth through our acts of love and kindness. Every time we offer a smile to a stranger, every time we reach out to help someone in need, every time we choose love over fear or hate, we are bringing a little bit of heaven to earth. We are living the purpose for which we were created. I'm not perfect, far from it. I still have my moments of doubt, of fear, of sadness. I still miss Thaddeus every day. But now I view these moments not as weaknesses to be overcome, but as part of the rich tapestry of human experience. If there is one message I would like to share with the world based on my experiences, it would be this: love. Love deeply. Love without fear. Love not just your family and friends, but all beings. See the divine spark in every person you meet. Live each day as if it were your last, not with fear but with gratitude and joy. Appreciate the little things: a child's smile, a bird's song, the warmth of the sun on your face. These moments are precious. They are sacred. Forgive. Forgive others. Forgive yourself. We carry burdens that are too heavy when we hold on to hurt and resentment. Forgiveness frees us, allows us to live more fully in the present. Seek silence. In our noisy and busy world, it is easy to lose connection with our essence, with the divine. Find moments of stillness each day, moments to simply be, and always remember, you are never alone. The love that created us, that sustains us, that awaits us on the other side is always with us. It is within us, all around us, connecting us to each other and to all creation. My journey continues. Every day is a new opportunity to learn, to grow, to love. I don't know what the future holds, but I face it with hope and confidence. I know that no matter what happens, I am loved, I am guided, I am part of something much bigger than I can understand. And so are you. We all are. We are all part of this wonderful cosmic dance, all precious, all necessary. May we live our lives with this awareness, spreading love and light wherever we go. My story is just one of billions. But if it can bring comfort, hope, or new understanding to someone, then I will have fulfilled a small part of the purpose for which I was sent back. Because in the end, that's what it's all about. Sharing the love, spreading the light, making a difference, no matter how small, in someone's life. And so, I continue my journey, grateful for each moment, open to each lesson, ready for whatever comes next. Because now I know with a certainty that goes beyond words that life, in all its forms, is a precious gift. And I intend to honor that gift by living it fully, loving deeply, until my last breath.